Hey guys. All right, y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and get started because I want to respect your time, but I know people are gonna be rolling in as we get going. So welcome to the team call. It's so great to see you guys all the first Tuesday of the month. I'm not gonna really bring any major announcements right now, but I will just say we're well into Team Cup month. So I hope that you're on a team and that you and your team have connected and kind of set a game plan for, set some goals together and what you're going to do to kind of help each other. I mean, guys, for those of you who might be this might be your first time on a team cup, and you're freaking out, a little nervous. Like I was terrified to do my first team cup because I was afraid I was going to disappoint or let people down. I just want to encourage you. This is just, we're not doing anything different than we normally do during the month in terms of our activity. It's just doing it in the context of a smaller community and kind of giving it a little bit more of that like small group push and working together with people and accountability to kind of working with people and pushing ourselves beyond what we normally would. And there's some fun prizes and like, why not? Why not throw some prizes in there? And so stay tuned. I have a little something fun up my sleeve to add to that. But I don't want to take too much time talking to you because we have a guest speaker tonight. And I think she's here. I see Elizabeth. So I'll go ahead and announce her and just kind of let her take it away. But Elizabeth, I met Elizabeth. Well, do you go by Liz? I mean, I know most people call you Liz, but I think Liz.
I go by Elizabeth or Liz, either one.
Okay. Well, my middle name was Elizabeth, and I really like it, so I say the full word. So I met Elizabeth at Superstar Weekend. What's that? Almost 2 years ago? I don't know, a year and a half ago. And I'd always like admired her from afar. I really just, I've always respected her style of leadership. It's just something that like I would like to align myself with. But I had the pleasure of meeting her at Superstar Weekend, and our husbands connected, which was really cool. I'll go ahead and read you her, all of her credentials. It's a little bit of a list here, but Elizabeth is a Superstar Diamond coach, 3-time elite, 5 years coaching. Did I say Million Club? Executive leader, and she's spoken at Summit National on the National Wake Up Call Leadership. She is a very successful coach in our organization, and I really admire the depth of her leadership, and so that's what's really I've been really drawn to her style about. She really is a service-oriented coach. She has a real big servant's heart, and really I think aligns with a lot of the way that I try to lead and that I think my team is drawn to. So I think you guys are really going to be especially blessed to hear from Elizabeth. But so Liz, I don't know that I know your entire story. I think I've heard it in bits and pieces, so on different calls and stuff like that, but I'm sure the team would love to hear it, and I'm going to go ahead and let you take it away. So thank you so much for being here. We are pumped to hear from you. I hope you guys have some paper and pencil.
Thanks for having me. And Megan has told me a lot about you guys, and just that you guys lead with the servant's heart and you have the right perspective on building this business. So I'm honored and excited, and I could reverse and say back to Megan so many of the nice things that she said about me. I've admired her as well, and it's been awesome to get to know her and her husband, Niles, and their beautiful children, and just to now get to know her team. So thanks for having me on. And I'll tell you a little about my story, and then I'm excited to talk to you about a topic that might sound a little funny for someone who believes so strongly in putting people first and leading with that servant mindset. So I got started coaching about 5 years ago, and I was 50 pounds heavier and working in corporate marketing, and I was just at a really low point in my life. I had multiple knee surgeries, and I was in a lot of physical pain, and that became kind of my crutch or my blanket. And I think and would encourage you to think of things in your life that might have become your wet blanket or your crutch that you lean on as an excuse as to why you might not be able to do something or why you haven't tried to do something, because that's what I did for years. I told myself that I couldn't lose the weight because I had bad knees. I can't do those kind of workout programs. I'm, a former athlete, and I just don't have it in me, and this is just my body now. And I was at the same time feeling defeated in my health and fitness. I was working in a corporate career that just really sucked the life out of me. And I just kept going down that path. But in my heart, for some reason, I kept thinking, oh, well, I'm made for more. And someday I'll start my own business. And someday I'll live out all these dreams. And I just need a little more time to pass. And I didn't realize that in my head, I was thinking, oh, time is going to work in my favor. Like, time will pass and I'll just naturally start working towards these things I say I want. But time was a thief. I was not changing any of my actions or behaviors to align with my ambitions or my dreams. So all of a sudden, I realized that every day that was passing was actually getting me further and further from the things I said I wanted, because I wasn't actually doing anything to achieve them. So long story short, I would occasionally go to this yoga studio, because yoga was kind of that thing that I said I could do because it wasn't bad on my knees. And I saw this brochure for Shakeology. I had no idea what Shakeology was, and I'm ever the skeptic. I still am of so many different things, and I always take something, I research it up and down, and I look for all the reasons it's not going to work for me. So I did the same thing with Shakeology, and I got a glowing green light from my doctor, my nutritionist that I had been working with on and off, and my chiropractor. So I'm like, okay, I guess I got to try this thing. And I started with Shakeology, and then I started with P90X, and I started to see my body change. And I started to kind of just become empowered and realize what I was capable of. And it's true testament to the fact that being a product of the product and going through that vital process is so vital, because that's what led me into coaching naturally. That's what helped me develop my story. So before I kind of go into what I want to talk about, I just want to remind you guys, if you're feeling stuck or if you're brand new, and Megan is such a shining example of this, if you don't know where to begin, start by going 100% in on a fitness journey. I witnessed her do it with 80 Day Obsession, as did you guys, and we've seen so many people go 100%. I'm not talking 99%. I'm not talking about leaving any room because you deserve that glass of wine after a long week, or you have that wedding you have to go to. Good for you. Go enjoy the wedding, stick to the plan. Go 100% and see what happens to you in your business. Your whole life will change. So that's kind of what happened to me. I did 100%. I did P90X and Shakeology. And all those excuses I told myself, like, I can't do this, I have bad knees. I'm doing one of the hardest programs that's still in our library today. And I crushed it. After 5 knee surgeries, lost over 50 pounds, and realized I had been lying to myself all along. So that same lie I had been telling myself in my fitness journey, I had been telling myself in what I wanted with my relationships, in business, in my future, in entrepreneurship. So that's when I was willing and open to the idea of coaching. Now, again, skeptic, so I was resistant to it. And I was telling my upline all the reasons that I couldn't do it. And then I finally got to a place where all the fears of what could happen with coaching, like failing or people saying no, or what will people think of me, they finally got trumped by my fear of life remaining the same. And once I realized that that was far scarier, being at the end of my life someday and looking back on a life that was never actually lived, that's when I went all in on it. So the topic, I've done this call a few times in different ways for different teams, and my team included. And I titled the call, "So You Want to Make 6 Figures." And I think it kind of perked up the ears of a lot of the coaches on my team, but it also made some of my coaches look at me like, wait a minute, you don't really talk about money. What's this about? And the reason I wanted to talk about that, and I titled that, was first of all to get their attention, but second of all to remind them that you can build something real and true to you where you are serving people, but you can still be heavily rewarded for that in a way that will change your family's life and give you more to be able to give back and serve and live out your purpose. And I remember I told you guys I've had all these knee surgeries, so I've spent the last 18 years or 15 to 18 years in physical therapy. I haven't been in, knock on wood, since starting with Beachbody. That's been my physical therapy. But when I first started with Beachbody, I remember it was one of the last times I was going into PT. I didn't know it at the time that it would be one of the last times. And I'd become really good friends with my physical therapist, Bob, because I'd been going to him for so long. He saw me grow up. He saw me through so many injuries. And my mom also had an ankle injury at the time, so she was there that day. And I had just made my first $20 with Beachbody. And Bob said, "Oh, I heard you're doing this whole Beachbody thing. What's that all about?" Kind of like poking fun at me a little bit. We had a very like sarcastic, back and forth kind of relationship. And he's like, "Oh, you're going to be one of those people," and whatever. And I remember thinking, getting a little nervous, palms sweating, like, okay, like, what's he going to think of me? And he said, "Why are you doing this? Like, you have a good job. Why are you doing this?" And I don't know why these words came out of my mouth. I had made $20 with Beachbody at this point. And I said, "I just want to make that an extra 6 figures for my family." And literally Bob burst out laughing, like right in my face laughing, thought I was kidding, just couldn't contain himself. And I turned beet red and I was like, what just came out of my mouth? Like, extra 6 figures, I just made my first $20. And I remember my mom kind of looking at me like, she didn't laugh at me, but she looked at me like, what is she talking about? And it was in that moment that I realized that I had a vision for this. I knew even in the beginning, before I knew how to make the money, how to rank advance, what cycling was or volume or any of that stuff, that I had a vision for where I wanted to go with Beachbody. And that was the foundation upon which I built my whole business. And the first kind of pillar I want to talk to you about, whether you're brand new and you know nothing about how this business works yet, or you've been doing this for a while and you feel like you're spinning your wheels, or if you're crushing it, this applies to you, because vision and clarity of that vision is everything. If you feel unfocused, if you don't know how to spend your time, it's probably because you lack clarity or you lack that vision. And this is serious stuff. It sounds a little bit pie in the sky to think about creating vision boards and kind of that visualization exercise and really dreaming big and thinking about your goals. But there's people who dream big and then they don't do anything about it. But I'm talking about, this is just the first step in a multiple step process of building this into something that can change your life. So you really want to take this exercise, ongoing exercise, because it's always changing and evolving. You want to take it seriously. Actually set aside some time where you really nail this down. I just did this again not too long ago with the new year, of creating a new vision board for this year. And it's sitting right behind me. You might see it up on this board. And I also have it as the desktop on my computer. I have it on my phone, and I have it on my mirror in the bathroom, and I have a little printout in my car, because I need it ever present in front of me, knowing this is what you're working for. Like in those tough moments, this is what you're working for. On the nights that the kids keep you up all night and you get no sleep, this is why you're getting on the computer and you're working anyway, or you're still pushing play in your workouts. So that setting aside that time and saying, like, to your spouse, maybe I need to take the kids for an hour because I need quiet time, or you stay up an hour later, or you wake up an hour earlier to have that quiet time where you're inspired and you're dreaming again and you're getting it down on paper. And you need to think about what is it you need and why you need it. What is the necessity behind it and the emotion behind it? Not just like, oh, all right, well, everyone says they want to be a diamond, so I'll just put diamond on there. Why? Like, what does that mean to you? And think about, what is the cost if that doesn't happen? There's an exercise I had my team do, and I thought it was awesome. We called it Life on the Other Side. And I remember doing this back when I was still working in corporate, because I worked this business kind of as a side hustle for a while. And you think about life 2-3 years from now, that dream, that vision that you thought of, it actually came true. Okay, so maybe that, I'll just use mine as an example. Like, I wanted to be home. I wanted to be able to raise my kids. I didn't want to put them in daycare. And I wanted my husband home, which sounded crazy because we both worked corporate jobs. He had a really high-paying, excellent corporate job. And that's what we all went to school for. And I had this vision of buying a property and like all these different things. And the day in the life, like when you think about that, And the power of that, you should have like a visceral reaction. You should either feel peace or happiness or excitement, but then also think about life if none of these things come true. If life is exactly as it is today, 3, 4, 5, 6 years from now, are you okay with that? And that should give you, if that gives you a visceral reaction, you know you need to get to work. Because what you focus on expands. That's why it's so important that I have that sitting there and sitting in front of me and sitting down in my bathroom in my car, because I need to focus on it. I need to remember why I'm pushing for these things. It's kind of like when you go car shopping and you say, okay, I'm going to get a Chevy Tahoe. And then you're thinking about it and you go test drive it, and then you get on the road to go home and you see Chevy Tahoes everywhere. It's not that just magically in that moment everyone else went out and bought a Chevy Tahoe. It's that that's just where your focus are. You've been driving by those Tahoes over and over and over again. You didn't notice them because you just weren't paying attention to them. It's the law of attraction. You kind of attract into your life what you're focusing on. And I want to tell you a quick story about my first vision boarding exercise. I had successfully avoided it for 2 years. My coach kept trying to get me to create a vision board, and I kept saying no because I thought it was so stupid. I'm like, I'm not like doing an art project to cut out pictures of a house I want to live in someday. That's so silly. But I wanted my team to do this exercise, and I believe so strongly that I can't ask my team to do anything that I'm not willing to do. And my corporate mentor at the time, he's not with Beachbody anymore, Nate, he was like really good at this. So he's like, all right, I'm going to walk you through it. I'm going to tell you what to put on there. And he said, make it the more real, the better. So I remember like the kind of fitness goal section of my vision board. I only cut out pictures of brunettes because I'm a brunette. And I didn't want to, if I saw a picture of a blonde on there, I wouldn't like emotionally connect to that. I wouldn't see that as me. So I tried to make it as real as I could. And here were the things that I put on my vision board. Okay, so I put, and this was back in 2014. I wanted to make $2,500 a week. I wanted to speak on the National Wake Up Call, buy a house. I wanted to be a 10-star elite, and I wanted to get pregnant. My husband and I wanted to start a family. Now, that I started, I created that vision board in January at the start of the year. And at the time, this is where I was at. I was making about $500 a week with Beachbody. I was a 3-star diamond coach. I had never been selected or asked to be on even a prospect for the National Wake Up Call. We were renting an apartment in Boston and hadn't even really started planning for buying a house. I was nowhere near elite, and we were newly married. So a lot of those goals were kind of a long shot. And I remember writing them down being like, what the heck am I doing? Like, these are such big push goals. Well, I also printed out my numbers because I was curious when I was telling my team about this the other day. And this is how I ended 2014. I ended as a 10-star diamond coach. I was in the last week of the year, I was making $2,699. So I broke my $2,500 goal, starting at a $500 a week goal, which was sometimes like $300 or $200 a week, maybe $600 a week. We bought our first house. We achieved elite that year as a team. My husband and I, we got pregnant with our first baby. And I was asked to speak on the National Wake Up Call. And it was just kind of testament to the power of setting my focus there. It wasn't magic. It wasn't that like, oh, you put this stuff on a poster board and then you stick that poster board up in your wall and then you just wait, it'll just happen. It's because all of my actions started to take shape around what I was focusing on every day. Because I said I wanted to be on the National Wake Up Call, I started positioning myself to be on the National Wake Up Call. I put it out there to my corporate connections. I started kind of being more of a leader in the network. We wanted to buy a house, so we started planning to buy a house. It's not that this is like some magic pill. It's that you start doing the things that help you to get to where you ultimately want to go. So I wanted to make $2,500 a week. I was only making $500 a week. How is my income going to go up that much in a year's time? Well, I knew I had to increase my volume on my weak leg, so I started putting my focus there. It's just that you attract what you focus on, and because your actions start to align with what you say you want. Does that make sense? So the second kind of pillar of this whole thing in growing a successful business, and again, if you're new, don't let this stuff freak you out, because this applies to you too. Schedule in the change that you want to see. You got to manage and take ownership of your day. If your habit is to roll over in bed and first thing you do in the morning, pick up your phone and start scrolling social media, you've just lost control of your day. You get to choose your actions from the second you wake up every day, and you take ownership of that. So schedule in your workout. Schedule in your meal prep. If you work a full-time job, or if you're a stay-at-home mom and you've got your hands full, you got to schedule this stuff in as though you're in a corporate job and your job depends on it, because this is your job. Even if you're brand new, even if you've only made that $20, you got to have the vision for where you're going, and you have to make sure your actions align with that. You know, you need to be mastering your social media, doing business building activities, and getting that on your calendar. Another big thing I talk to my team a lot about is auditing your roles, your day, your life, okay? So I call it role creep. I will talk to one of my coaches, and they'll be like, I can't figure out how to be a leader for my team, and I'm trying to earn more money with Beachbody, and I'm trying to rank advance. And I'm like, all right, back up. Tell me more about what's going on outside of Beachbody. What are you doing? And they have these big goals with Beachbody. Like, I have coaches that want to leave their full-time jobs, or they want to retire their spouses, or they want to earn their 6-figure incomes or 7-figure incomes. We have people pushing for superstar diamond. And they start telling me all of the things outside of Beachbody they're doing. Well, I'm on the PTA, and I'm the homeroom mom, and I do carpool. I also do all the meal prep at our house and all the laundry. I work a 9 to 5, so I'm a manager there. And they start going through all their roles. And I try to take them back a step and say, okay, all these roles you just listed, they're awesome. Like volunteering, that's great. I'm not saying they're bad things. However, are they aligning with where you want to go in your life and with your family? Because if PTA in the year of 2018 isn't helping you get to where you ultimately want to go, it's not that you'll never be on PTA, but is this the year that you take it head on? You know, don't start letting those roles creep into your life, and by the end of it, you have no time for anything because you've just said yes to too many things. When you're saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So you get to determine what you say yes to, and you kind of have to do an audit and say, all right, where am I at? Have I just bitten off more than I can chew? I really am saying I want this whole Beachbody thing, but I've just taken on all these other things. So I created this really simple, basic formula that it's more of just a 3-step method that helps you with this whole role creep thing. I call it the ESF formula and method. And it's just eliminate, streamline, focus. What can you eliminate? What can you streamline in your life? So maybe you can't give something up, but how can you make it more efficient? Example, if you do meal prep, laundry, you work, you have kids, you do carpool, maybe you can't eliminate being a mom, you can't eliminate your job yet. Maybe you can outsource your laundry once a week. Maybe you can outsource your meal prep. You know, you can find maybe you'd have to rearrange how you spend your money a little bit, or maybe you have the money to do it, but what can you streamline? And then what do you need to focus on once you eliminate and streamline? What do you need to focus on to help you get to your goals? And whatever you're doing, this is the most important thing. Be present, okay? Your family would rather 15 solid minutes of you than an hour of you physically being in the room but scrolling on your phone, being mentally somewhere else. You will be so much more efficient in Beachbody if you're not scrolling Facebook while you're kind of answering messages and cooking dinner and talking to the kids. give undivided attention when you can to one thing, and then shift your focus completely and give undivided attention to the next thing. Don't try to do it all at once. Multitasking is a myth. Your brain can't do two things at once. It's only doing one thing. You're just spreading yourself too thin. So the third pillar is strategic planning. You schedule in the time. What are you going to do with that time? Now you have a block on your calendar that says Beachbody. What are you doing in that time? What's your growth plan? How are you going to become the person who earns the 6 figures? So maybe you're starting with like a personal growth plan. Are you confident? Are you energized? Are you ready to make the sacrifices? Do you have the grit? Are you fiercely committed? If not yet, what's your plan to get there? As important as it is to do with your time, like the action steps, it's also just as important to be nurturing that mindset and that growth piece, because you want to be in a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. A fixed mindset says, I can't change. This is who I am. This is what I'm working with. That's it. A growth mindset says I can keep improving. And then also in that strategic planning category is aligning your actions to your ambitions. You can say you want a lot of things, but it's easy to do, to say you want things, but what are you doing? Do you have a power hour? Do you have a checklist you operate off of? Do you have a running list of names of people who are constantly like coming on and off your list? I have mine right here and I work off of it. It's just, I call it my 10 in play. And I always have at least 10, sometimes it goes up to 15 names of people that I'm talking to and in communication with. And if they tell me to get lost, they come off the list. And if they tell me I'm in, then they come off the list and they get replaced with another name. But that always keeps my pipeline full. And I'm always setting deadlines. Do I hit every deadline? No. But I'm setting them because if I say I want to hit diamond in 2018, then that means I have until the last day of the year. Or when I say that I want, like, I've got to get this thing done, like if I'm not setting a deadline, it's not getting done. And the fourth piece and final piece is mapping out and prioritizing. So the first thing, whether it's for you or helping your team, quick wins. That's an important thing. You want to feel like you're winning. So don't just set just the big vision and big dream goals. You need to make sure you have the little things you're checking off your list along the way and celebrating that. I remember that hustle in the beginning. And I would get one new person, and that's what kept me going to the next person. And in between were all these no's and all these rejections, but I kept going because I knew what it felt like to get that first quick win. I want another one. Sometimes that's sales of a challenge pack, or getting more people into your challenge groups, or helping someone lose their first 5 pounds, or helping a new coach get started right and helping them get a win. And then also mapping out and prioritizing the long game. What is your team growth strategy? Who do you want on your team? What are cycle bonuses? What are the cycle bonuses you need to achieve the income goals you have? Do you understand volume growth? And are you, even if you have 2 people on your team, are you instilling leadership principles in them so that they're growing into the person they're meant to become, not just a Beachbody coach peddling products, but like they're actually using this as the vehicle to live out their purpose? And then as far as like, if we are touching on the whole 6-figure thing, I remember my coach Keith said, you will hit the $1 million club the year that you have 5 stars in your downline. So that's like at least 5 leaders, like people really truly building this business with depth and understanding. That was the year I hit $1 million club, because I started teaching these leadership principles. And I don't want to lose anyone that might be newer to the business or just getting started, but this is something you can do from day one. And you can start by developing the leadership principles within yourself. I turned to John Maxwell for that. He has a super basic but excellent book, Developing the Leader Within You is a great place to start. And then he has another one, Developing the Leaders Around You. And I think he just created new versions of those. And then he also has, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. I love those books. They're just so good. He's absolute gold with everything leadership. And then developing some kind of lead capture system. That sounds fancy for getting people's emails. You just want to make sure that you're continually growing your list of people that you can serve and connect with. And I like having their emails because social media is great and it's how I initially connect with people, but I'm renting that space. If Mark Zuckerberg decides tomorrow he doesn't like me, he can shut me down on those pages. But if I have people's email addresses, my business lives on because I can still show up in those people's inboxes and serve them. So you get to decide what level you want to take this business to, but I like opening people's eyes to the fact that, yeah, this is awesome. Yes, we get to serve people. Yeah, this is fun. But you can build an epic, life-changing business out of this while you're having fun, while you're serving, while you're connecting with people, making your difference in the world, and leaving your impact. And there will be struggle along the way. You will have to fail forward. And I think an important piece, and I know you guys have this with Megan and her team, is a cure for that struggle is don't unplug from the community. Dig into it. Like when you are struggling, go harder on your workouts and lean on that challenge group, or reach out to your team page, or use Cup Month as an opportunity to push beyond what you believe to be your limitations with your smaller team. It's just such an incredible opportunity in a month like this. It's like people, I have coaches on my team too, Megan, you mentioned it, that like really freak out about Team Cup Month because their first thought is, should I do this because I don't want to let people down? Get that stupid idea out of your head. That's so ridiculous. This is an opportunity for you to build connection and community and have fun pushing really hard and seeing what you're capable of and being empowered and fighting for what it is you really want. So that, like, I always tell people all the time, when those thoughts pop up in your head, don't just glaze over them. That's a really big deal if you're thinking like that. And chances are it stems from something probably in your childhood that you were affected by. Address it. Go talk to someone, read what you got to read, because those things aren't just Beachbody specific. They will plague you in your marriage, as a parent, in business, in relationships, in your own. It'll rob you of your joy. So when you have those moments where you think those things, start becoming more self-aware and address them and be like, I don't want to be that person. I thought that, and I need to work through that thought. I'm going to push really hard in Cup Month, and I'm not worried about letting anyone down because I know what I'm capable of, and I'm just going to do my best. That's all you can do. And then actually do your best. So that's what I got for you guys. And I hope it was of some help to you and your team, Megan.
Definitely. I think a lot of what you share, so many of our team can relate to. Does anybody have any questions or anything for her? I have several thoughts that, yeah, this was great. So great. So, I mean, this is something that we talk about, and I'm just curious how you talk to your team about this. I do attract a lot of people who come in not really like, they come in just, they want to serve. They're just like, they just love this and they want to give it back. But they battle the earning an income for it, or it's easy to get caught up in over serving, kind of like what you're talking about. You're saying yes to a lot of things and it makes you feel good. And you feel like, that's what you're supposed to do. But it's almost like you're kidding yourself. And like, how do you talk to your team about, you talked about this ESF method, but how do you talk to them about this kind of idea of, I just want to help people and it's okay if I don't make money, but really we know that there's something deeper than that and they're kind of hiding behind service and this is something that I had to struggle with in terms of like the money, making money serving. I still have to do active work on it, but I'm curious how you speak to your team about it.
I lay it out, and first of all, I always ask my team because I'm so honest with them. I ask them for permission to push them and be honest. And when they say yes, they know what's coming for them. And when we have that conversation, which we have it a lot, because I have some, just like you, Megan, big-hearted people on my team. And I'm so blessed to be surrounded by them. But I tell them straight up, I'm not willing to let you, like you said, hide behind this comfort zone of thinking that you can't serve while also being rewarded for that service, because those people need you and they are going to buy this somewhere. They need someone who's going to love them through this program. Wouldn't you want that to be you? Because if it's not, they're going to go get it from some coach who does care about the money and is focused on the money, and those people will be let down and they will not be served. So I just kind of tell people to get over it. And I really push them with that. I also remind them to focus on their, because people will say all the time, well, I don't care about the money. Well, then you're not thinking about what it is you ultimately want, because it might not be money, but there's something in your life that you would benefit from, or your family would benefit from. Or great, if you have that big of a servant's heart, why the heck wouldn't you want $500,000 that you can give to the charity of your choice if you really don't care about money for yourself, but you love helping? So there's always something, but you got to just reconnect them to their why. And I hate that phrase. I wish there was something better, but I am rereading right now, Start with Why, Simon Sinek, and there actually is a workbook that he has that's called Find Your Why, and I would probably plug those people into that and really push them. I mean, I try to always also get to know people on a very individual basis, and I know who I can push and I know who I can't. I also know who's just there for the party. Sometimes people just like being a part of the community and, being in the challenge groups, and that's fine. I'm not going to twist anyone's arm. But the ones that I know are, like you said, kind of hiding behind something, if they give me permission to, I do push them, because I want to get the best of everyone. I want to help them become the most perfect, purpose-driven, and best version of themselves. And usually that requires me digging in a little bit.
Stepping on toes sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
No, thank you. That was good. Does anybody else have any questions? We have a lot of intellectual capital right here. An opportunity to dig in, even if it's not in regards to her topic. I mean, we're different types of leaders, so she probably has some insights, different style to share. I would love to ask her. Shy tonight?
I'll ask a question.
Sure.
So when you put down on your first dream board or whatever that you wanted to go from, I'll do the scary financial question,
Sure.
that you wanted to go from 500 a week to 2,500 a week, for example. Mm-hmm. How did you reverse engineer that goal? Because that's something that I struggle with, is having that financial goal, but understanding how to reverse engineer. I mean, I kind of say oh, I'm just going to help more people, or I'm going to sign more coaches, but I don't know how to break that down.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So I'm so not a numbers person, to the point where I want to vomit when I have to look at my numbers, because it just stresses me out. But what I did learn was I lived in my online office that year, because I needed to know where my volume was at, because it's simple to calculate cycle bonuses. And there are a bunch of video resources in the online office that walk you through how to calculate that. But essentially I just knew I had to build that weak leg, because that's where I was going to start seeing more volume growth and cycle bonuses, which equates to more money. But also, to make that was my biggest jump in a year, not necessarily the biggest number, but the biggest percentage jump. And to go from 500 to 2,500, you have to start duplicating. That is the key. So I couldn't get to that number on my own. I had to start training and inspiring my coaches to go do what I was doing. That's where you're going to see the biggest volume and income growth, is not where you're just out there hustling I've got to help more people. It's I've got to teach my people how to go help more people. There has to be duplication. That's where you're going to see the biggest jump. And that's why I mentioned leadership. It's that concept of I want to do it, and I want to do it so well that I inspire you to do it, but then I want to talk to you and I want to teach you how to do it and teach your people how to do it. That was the year that I started having like up until that point, the 2 years I was in it, I didn't really have any runners. I didn't have people who were like truly in it. Then in that year of 2014 was finally when I had the people like, okay, I'm willing, let's like teach me how to do this. So that's where you're going to see the biggest volume growth. And ideally they would be on your weak legs so that you're seeing it more quickly.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
You're welcome.
I mentioned this in the chat, but Chris is going to NLC, and I know Craig is doing a volume training, so that will be.
Oh, awesome.
He gets into numbers a little bit. He's my rep, and he kind of practiced his training on our mastermind call, so I did listen to it. Melly asks, how much time do you spend on the business?
In total, so it's so different. What I was spending on the business back in 2014 when I was like in hustle mode before my volume had really kicked in, before I had a ton of people working the business, I was working like I had left my full-time job. So this became my full-time job. I was working, I don't know, like 8 hours a day at least, but I was working. Like people say they work, you can work this business. Like now, okay, I'll give you another example. Now my business is really thriving. I have tons of leaders. I could take a year off from this business and my income would grow every week. That's the beauty of this kind of business. I don't do that because I love what I do and I like being there for my team. But now I have 2 little kids. They're home. The dream being the whole family's home, but it's chaos. I probably work maybe, and now this varies. I'm not a structured person. So I'll have 1 week where like I'm really pumped up and 80-day obsession is coming up and I'm working a lot. Maybe it's like a 25-hour week. But then I'll have a week where we're like traveling and I have the kids all week and maybe it's a 10-hour week. But that's because I built it to this point. But when you want to build it up to this point, you haven't gotten there yet. Like when I first started, I was still working in corporate. So I had to just be efficient because I could only work an hour or 2 a day because I was working 9-10 hour days and then I was commuting at least an hour each way. So I was never in the car without either listening to personal development or calling like prospects that I was trying to help or whatever. I was listening to podcasts. I was on my lunch break messaging people. I was putting up posts. I was planning posts ahead of time. So there are different seasons. There's no right number for that, but you want to make sure you're efficient when you are working, especially if you're busy. And this business will reward you when you treat it like a business, not like a hobby. Did I miss any other questions? I think. How much time do I spend on each type of coaching? So with challengers, personally sponsored coaches. I think the big thing is always working with the willing. And this was a mistake I made in the beginning. I desperately wanted runners and I desperately wanted people to want to work this business with me, but I kept trying to force the ones that weren't ready or didn't want to, and I wasted a lot of my time. So there's an 80-20 rule. I'm sure you guys have heard that. Spend 80% of your time with the 20% of your people who are willing to, do something, and your top 20%. You might not have a lot of people, so that might be easy to pick and choose. You also might not have a top 20% yet. You might have 10 people and they're all discount coaches. Great. Help them get the best possible results that they can get as challengers and be spending the rest of your time out there finding your runners. Any other questions? I didn't miss any others, did I?
Good stuff. Work with the willing, and then if whoever's not willing, you go out and you keep building your team.
Mm-hmm.
Great stuff. Thank you so much. Does anybody have anything else before we say good night? I don't want to keep everybody on too late. Oh, Molly says, when you were working full time and just having limited time with the business, how did you make sure to get everything done?
I just had to be really, so like I had a checklist. I don't do well on spreadsheets. So I'm like old school piece of paper checklist. And I had my this is just staying afloat in the business. If I get this checklist done every day, I'm at least not drowning. So it was like invite, I don't, it's whatever it is for you, but it's like a mini power hour for me. Like invite 5 people a day, message 5 people, follow up with 5 people, connect with 5 new people, all that kind of stuff. And I think more important than time, people think it's a time management thing. They think it's an organization thing. I have 0 time management skills. In fact, I suck at it. And I'm probably one of the least organized people you will ever meet in your entire life. And I built a 7-figure business. Trust me, those 2 things do not matter. Those, again, are a crutch and a wet blanket that you're leaning on, thinking, giving yourself an excuse as to why you might be failing. You just need to know that you're making this happen. That's how I got it done. I just had that vision in my head of where I wanted to go. And then every little pocket of time, I wanted to fill it with this because I was excited about where I was ultimately taking it. But you can be efficient and create checklists and kind of set your schedule if that will help you. But there wasn't anything really structured for me. It was just like any pocket of time, I'm just making it happen because I have to. I want to. I want out of the life I'm in and into a better life. And that's how you're going to do it.
That's good stuff. And you're not the most disorganized person they've met because they have me as their leader. It's so encouraging to hear you say that because that's an area that I struggle. But you said it's not a time management problem. Doesn't John Maxwell say you don't have a time management problem, you have an energy management problem?
Yeah, and I've started a few different ways: an energy management, a you management. Yeah, and it's not a time management. We all have the same amount of hours in the day.
But you just said it. You just said, you had no time, but you brought energy to what you did have, and that makes the biggest difference. I could sit here for 8 hours today and probably not as accomplish as much as you did, in that passion fired up state when I could be like, whatever, lollygagging and thinking something. So,
right.
And there have been days that I think I've gotten less done than I used to when I was chasing a baby and chasing a toddler because I wasn't bringing that same fire. So, this is awesome. So thank you so much, Elizabeth.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate you taking time out of your evening to share with us. This was really a lot of great value for us to all go chew on. And I think the next best step for all of us is to create that vision and gain some real clarity, to feel that visceral, that actual physical feeling of what that will feel like or what it will feel like to not reach that. So that's where I'm headed. I'm going to redraft my vision and get some real clarity around my goals. And I hope that my team will too. But
awesome.
Again, we appreciate you so much.
My pleasure. It's good to see you guys. And thanks for having me on, Megan.
Good night, everyone.